So we're doing the Squawking 7 top favorite fear moments. Your favorite moment, what part do you like to watch over and over again? What made you stand up and cheer on Fear the Walking Dead? You know what? You could be here and be part of this recording right now and be putting your answers in the comments with us that we could read out right now if you were here. And it's so easy to do. Dave, how do they do that?
You do that by heading over to either ko-fi.com/squawkingdead or patreon.com/squawkingdead. You don't have to buy us a coffee or join a membership tier. Just follow for free because that's where we post our recording schedules. We don't post them on social media. My number one, Alaska. And first of all, I loved covering that episode beginning to end.
We're doing moments.
It was such...
This freaking guy in this freaking episode.
Jeez Louise.
Who invited this dude?
You guys told me to come on. And so loving breaking down that episode with you guys, picking out all the cool little things along the way, and seeing this relationship develop between Dwight and Owl.
An owl, yeah.
An owl. I want to say another moment watching Morgan and Dwight talk at the pool. There was some really good dialogue there in one of the later episodes where they fake their death so that they can get away from
Ginny, yeah.
From Ginny. But then I want to go back to Alaska. And at the end of the episode, more than anything else, that whole end scene where Al and Isabel have that one little tiny conversation where she's desperately trying to get to her. Then the Cipro and all that. And there's just so much that comes out of that particular moment. And then, of course, you have that payoff at the end. Dwight and Sherry, they find each other. But it's knowing that had they not done all of that, they may not have reunited too. One lover's loss is another one's gain. That's why I brought up the whole episode, because it leads into why that moment with Al and Isabel, whom I even argued, if that wasn't Isabel, it didn't really sound like her, but it was her. Okay. I conceded finally a few years later.
I love the Cipro callback to season 4, which we talked about in the podcast. But
but you weren't on the podcast at the time.
It's 412 week, which was directed by Coleman Domingo. It's when Al and June are on their own after the hurricane, and they are trying to get back to Morgan's group. They run out of fuel, and a guy steals Swati. His name is Quinn.
The June doppelganger-ish.
Al is sick, and so June goes to find Swati because Al tells her that there's antibiotics in there. And so she keeps asking this guy where the Cipro is. So later on, when they communicate again, he calls her Cipro. Which that's a cute little tie back to it.
But I just love that moment because the callbacks, the little details, the license plate, the license. Oh, yeah, the Fueler beer, right? Yeah. Yeah. And it all leads up to this moment. And then Alan Dwight being like this brother sister kind of thing. It's an episode where people just really come together, even though one of them is far apart. It's like, you're so close, I can touch you, but I'm glad to know that you're out there. Most of my picks have to do with us and how I love being with you guys when we break these episodes down. It means a lot to me. So I can have a bias.
So sappy.
Well, I wasn't there for any of these.
For a robot.
Thanks.
That's what makes them stand out to you, Dave.
Yeah, really. It does. Personal connection.
My number one is many moments. Everything that Sarah says.
Okay. Now we have to do a gun to your head moment, because if you had to pick one Sarah-ism, what would it be?
No, absolutely. So, okay, let me start here and then end there.
Yeah.
I love everything that Sarah says. She already did cover a lot of this when she talked about her last one, but Sarah not only brings comedy to the screen, but Mo herself is such an incredible actress that she can make us laugh and she can make us cry all in the same episode. And I appreciate her so much for being able to do that. I don't think anyone could have played this character as perfectly as Mo does. I'm going to kind of dogpile on what Sharon D already said. The way Mo delivers that line when she's got that gun to Raleigh's head, it wasn't just what she said, but how Mo said it that gave me the chills that I got watching that episode, and the emotion that it invokes while watching it. You can really tell that Sarah is the kind of person that masks a lot of pain with her humor. And I can definitely relate to that. She's funny because she hides a lot of her feelings. And in that moment, she wasn't hiding anything. She was letting it all out. She truly felt horrible for what she did to Clayton. And it was because she had wrong information, basically. She thought she was doing a thing and it ended up being wrong. And that is definitely a top moment for me. But also, in barrier next to Jasper's leg. She says one word. It's going to get me right now. When her and Wendell are reunited and her and June and Luciana are in the back of that truck, and June is telling Sarah that she has plans for this hospital and this is what she told Ginny she wanted to do. And she said, and there's one other thing too. Basically she's like, Ginny had to return someone that should have been with us the whole time. And the van pulls up and the door opens up and then Wendell's sitting there and then Sarah's like, oh, and like, oh my God, it was just so perfectly, beautifully done. All she says is when. I mean, there's so much emotion. She's choked up as she's saying it, and she's excited, and she's sad. I mean, just 1,000 emotions all at once. And Mo captured it perfectly. I'm not going to say any more because I'm going to touch on this later in the
Bridget
week.
wants to go to bed, basically.
I mean, in real life, she loves Chill like a brother.
That excited to see Chill again. Yeah.
Which makes Breathe With Me such a powerful episode because she couldn't be reunited and she had to stand on her own.
What you were saying about anybody else playing her, I think it was when we had our interview with her, she was saying that when the producers and the showrunners called her in, they basically told her that they wanted her to be the character that she was in 40-Year-Old Virgin Vagina. This was kind of made for her, not tailor-made, but this was made for her to play. I love Sarah.
I love Mo.
I love this show. I do.
Mo and Alex.
Yeah.
My number one is the opening scene to the very first episode.
Dang.
Go figure.
The title sequence? No, I'm kidding.
The sting. God. I have to say, I struggle with rewatching the first couple seasons simply because the sting is so
Anxiety.
loud. It's
Nine Inch
so
Nails
loud.
produced.
Like you're just watching at a normal volume, and then all of a sudden it's like, wah! You're like, why?
But
This is
I was trying to watch a show.
What is this?
You know, they got fined for that because it was imitating a...
They got fined for a lot of things on this on these shows.
So somebody was doing like a radio show or something, and it was playing in the background, and it was so loud that it was mistaken for like they were worried
Like
people were
emergency
gonna
broadcast?
mistake it for an emergency signal.
yeah.
Yeah.
Interesting.
So like by the government.
Interesting.
Or like warning sirens. We have warning sirens that go off in town.
By the way, I think that's why they sort of changed the tone of it. I think in later seasons, if not mistaken, it wasn't as jarring.
It's so jarring.
But then they finally got rid of it.
Anyway, that's not my favorite part. So,
Anyway, sorry.
so
Talk about chew the screen, Ginny.
my favorite part is the opening sequence with Nick and Gloria. We come to find out later this is a bad news girlfriend that Nick has, who is also a drug addict. They are in an abandoned church doing heroin. Nick falls asleep reading and wakes up and Glow is gone. And he goes downstairs and she is eating someone's face. It's awesome and it's disgusting and I loved every second of it. It was so unusual because you're like, oh, okay, like it started while he was passed out. Like, this is it. And he steps out and it's like nothing else has happened.
Right.
The world is just going on as normal and does for several days after that. I don't know. It's a really cool juxtaposition of like his entire world is turned upside down, but also he's like, maybe I'm just insane. That's a horror moment. That's why I'm like, yeah, that's for me.
This reminds me of when that K2 crocodile variation of weed was out there and people were eating bath salts that whole time.
Yep.
And it was after that. I know that fiasco happened after that, but just to have that soon after the premiere for Fear the Walking Dead, the series premiere, was kind of like haunting because it's so isolated. You have buildings where this is being done and you have dens and these isolated pockets of people eating other people's faces and stuff like in similar behavior. And so to kind of go back to that scene, it's kind of like, and then he runs out and everybody's like, who is this crazy person leaving this isolated world?
When I love that he refuses to tell anyone what he saw. Yeah. I just was going for a walk. When everyone's like,
what if it was like a drug interaction?
You were running away from something. What were you running away from? No. I was just going for a walk. He doesn't even want to talk about the fact that like, this is someone he knew. And we don't really touch on that a ton in the show, which is disappointing to me because obviously he's got to work through that. But this was his girlfriend. And he woke up to find her eating someone's face. What the
But he was also on a lot of drugs, so he could have been like, holy shit, I'm on a lot of drugs. It's really messing with my head.
Well, this is how far I've gone down, too.
They got a bad batch from Walter White, is what happened.
Damn
that
you,
blue
Walter.
stuff.
Good framing, Bridget. I like that the most.
Thanks.
My number one, we've been giving Dave all night about episodes, but
Damn
I'm going to cheat a little bit. My favorite moment is the entirety of Laura.
Of course it is. I knew it.
If I had to narrow it down and get into my head and narrow it down, it's the canoe scene.
Oh, okay.
And so
I thought it was like the whole Ray of Sunshine thing. It doesn't take a whole day.
it's the canoe scene. I started watching this because I've found out Jenna Elfman was in it, and I've always liked her. So I didn't really want to watch like the whole show. I just wanted to watch her in it a little bit. So I looked up her character name on the show, and what I got was Laura. So I looked up the list of episodes, and there's an episode named Laura. So I like, let me watch this one first. So I start watching it, and I'm like, yeah. But then they get to the canoe scene, and the way they shoot it, and the colors, and it's just beautiful. It made me take notice. I've always said the cinematography on this show is fantastic. Whatever else you can say about it. Then they went to Bill's store, and I got really embroiled in the story more. But it was that first moment when they're in the canoe, the way they shoot the canoe coming across the screen, and it's the muted greens and the browns and the oranges and the way they're talking. It was just beautiful.
Visual storytelling, because it wasn't character centered as much. It was more visual storytelling surrounding them.
I was paying attention to the characters and like, oh, there's Jenna. That's awesome. This is cool. Oh, that scene where they're going under the bridge, the big trees growing out of the side, and it's almost like muted rainbow colors on the trees. And it's just beautiful, man. There's another scene later on that also grabbed me when I was watching the rest of the series. When John and Strand are stranded on the island, there's an overhead shot where they show Swati driving across the water. The twin wake behind it as it drives across the water is just beautiful. Like, what a beautiful shot they came up with. So super kudos to the cinematography team on Fear, because you guys knock it out of the park.
Adam Sushitsky.
Every time.
Yeah.
Every
Bernardo
time.
Trujillo.
In itself, Laura is a great episode, not just the cinematography, the bottle episode. You could just watch this episode as a movie. It's standalone.
Did any of these picks resonate with you? Have you made a list of your own top 7 favorite moments on Fear the Walking Dead? What would you have placed in the spot and why? Tell us in the comments. Or you can go the extra mile and share them in a podcast rating at ratethispodcast.com/squawkingdead. And don't miss out on future opportunities to share your thoughts. Follow us on either Ko-fi or Patreon.